So if you are not sure what you want to do with the rest of your life in terms of a job or a career, you're going to love today's video because I am going to tell you. The inspiration for today's video is two dudes that I met yesterday at the car wash. They both work there, and when I pulled up to basically go through and pay and pick my service, one of those little like drive-through car wash places with like the free vacuums. Anyway, I pull up and the one guy's like, "Oh my gosh," he's like, "I know who you are." I'm like, "Oh really?" I'm like, "Great to meet you. I'm Aaron." He goes, "I know, you basically raised me." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. No wonder you're so good looking," right? About that time, another one of his friends walks up. He's like, "Oh my gosh, great to see you." Anyway, long story short, I go through the car wash and I'm sitting there and I'm driving my car. And the one gentleman comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I have a YouTube channel. I just started. I'm, 19 years old. I'm trying to figure it out. Do you have any tips or advice?" I said, "Yeah." And I gave him a few pieces of advice. And he's like, "Cool." And he left. And he came back, he asked me another question. I'm like, yeah. And we talked for a little bit, and we talked a little bit about YouTube, which is an incredible opportunity for you guys out there. I've talked about the importance, or I should say, the power of starting a YouTube channel. It's easy, it's basically free. If you've got something you want to talk about, you just start putting videos out there, and you never know where you're gonna find your audience, and you never truly know where it's gonna lead to. And so anyway, this dude, he left, he came up and asked me like 3 questions, but then all of a sudden the quieter one, who basically was there when I first pulled in, he kind of came up to me, and he's like, "Hey, while you're here, I thought maybe I could ask you a question." I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Well, I'm 18 years old, I just graduated, and I don't know what to do." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I don't know. Do you think I should go to college?" I go, "Not necessarily. College isn't for everybody." I said, "Well, what do you like? What do you want to do?" And he's like, "I'm not sure." I said, "Well, what are you good at?" He's like, "I'm not sure." I said, "What are you interested in?" He goes, "I don't really know." And I said, "Well, is there anything?" And he goes, "Maybe something like manual." I said, "Like manual labor?" And he's like, "Yeah, maybe." And I'm like, "So great news. Like there are all sorts of like schools, like trade schools, like plumbers or electricians or mechanics. Like there are a lot of different options out there if you're somebody that wants to work with your hands." And the cool thing is that these are professions that there's always going to be a large demand for. And the other cool thing is that typically they make a lot of money, or you can make a lot of money. And then at some point, if you wanted to open your own business, you could do that. But this is a great idea and option. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, "Yeah, maybe." And I'm like, have you ever checked out Skillshare?" And he's like, "No." And so I told him about Skillshare, which I will link to down below. They're not a sponsor of today's video, but it applies here. I said, Skillshare is a platform that basically allows you to go and learn about a lot of different things. And what I would recommend is just try a bunch of shit. Like that, honestly, in my opinion, is what you should do. If you're somebody that doesn't know what you want to do not just decide, "Oh, I'm going to go to college," because the truth is that college is not necessarily for everybody. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to college if there's something that you want to do. Like college is, I think, a great next step for a lot of kids. But if you don't know or you don't have an idea of what you want to do, what I would recommend is get a job, start working, and then start figuring out. There's nothing that says that you need to go to college directly after high school, because the truth is that if you're not responsible and you're not ready for that type of commitment or responsibility, it is a huge potential waste of money. I talked to this dude for a little while and I leave, right? And I felt bad, honestly, when I left, that I couldn't give him a better direction. But the truth is that the direction needs to come from him. If he has no idea, like anything, then it's impossible for me to say, "You need to do this, you need to do that." And I think that's one of the big problems with the way that we are, right, as a society, right? We listen to other people in terms of what their opinion is for us. Now, sometimes that opinion is just for your best interest, like, "Yeah, Billy, you should go to college because this is what you need to do, and if you don't have a college degree, what are your opportunities and what are your options," right? My grandfather used to say, this is one of his famous sayings that I absolutely love, "An education is never too heavy to carry out of a ditch." Think about that for a second. There's nothing bad or wrong with getting educated, but there is something wrong with you going to college and not being prepared or ready for it or able to handle the responsibility, because that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of young dudes, right? I saw it when I went to college, right? For me, I went to college. Now, it was in 1994. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have Skillshare. I didn't have all these different like online ways to make money or entrepreneurship. Like I knew that I wanted to open a gym. And so what did I need to do? I needed to go learn about marketing and finance and things like that, right? I also knew that I just wanted a degree, right? Degrees, a lot of times, when you go to like an employer, it's not necessarily the degree that's getting you in the door. Having a college degree is basically showing that you have the ability to start something and complete something. Everything else that you're going to need to know, you're probably going to learn after college. Like for me, right, I went to college and I learned a lot of things, a lot of like nice things that you read in a textbook about marketing and advertising and business. But then life punches you in the face when you get out and it's like, oh shit, that's what I really needed to learn, right? And that's one of the reasons why I love this YouTube channel so much, is that I'm giving you some of the things that you're not going to learn from a professor in college. That's also one of the reasons why I love Skillshare so much. I talk about it all the time, and I'm going to link to it down below because we got 30-day free trials if you want to check it out. The reason I love Skillshare so much is that it basically has courses and classes for everything, right? Anything you can think of, like if you're interested in web design or like whatever, you can take classes, and it's from people that really have been there, got the t-shirt. These are experts, and they're simply sharing their knowledge and information. Whether or not you want to be an artist, you want to set up an Etsy account, like it doesn't matter. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a fanboy of Skillshare, which once again, not a sponsor. I'm just saying they're amazing, and I'm going to link to them down below if you want to check them out. There is a free offer that they have going on for 30 days free membership. Anyway, college is not for some people, right? It's not for a lot of people. Just like being an entrepreneur, a business owner isn't for a lot of people, right? You've got to be built for it. You've got to be ready for it. And college is very similar. If you're going to college and you're like, fuck it, I don't know, I'm just going to go, right? And then you're not ready or prepared to handle the responsibility of living on your own or having that much freedom, that's the thing. You gotta be responsible, because what happens most of the time, right? I think it's, I forget the percentage, but like when I went to college, right? Like I think it was like 50% of the people that like I was with in terms of freshman class were gone after the first year. They failed out, or their parents were like, hey, I'm not paying for you to get D's and F's and for you just to party your ass off. For me, I had to pay for a third of my college myself. The way that my parents and I did it, my mom and dad are divorced. We said, okay, where do you want to go? I said, West Virginia, because the reason I chose West Virginia University is they had a good business program, and they were also less expensive being out of state than any of the in-state Pennsylvania schools were. And so for me, I forget what the tuition was at the time, but I believe it was around like $2,000 a semester for out-of-state tuition. Now that doesn't include like lodging and meal plans and stuff like that, but it was super affordable. And so I took a third, my mom took a third, my dad took a third. I took student loans for my third. So when I graduated, I think my total student loan debt was around like $6,000. It was very manageable, but it did take me a while to pay it off. But now the price and the cost of college is absolutely insane. Like literally insane, which is why if you're somebody that does want to go to college, you better take it freaking seriously. You got to make sure that you go to class, you got to make sure you do your work, and you got to make sure you don't waste time or money. Or second option, go to community college. Going to a local community college is going to be more affordable. It's also a lot of times going to allow you to possibly work or takes like a smaller workload in terms of classes. And basically it allows you to affordably kind of start the process of taking courses and getting your college degree under your belt. And then if you want to, later on, you could always transfer. All right, another option now that wasn't available around when I was growing up is online. There are a lot of online courses as well, or colleges or degrees that you can actually get online, which is another amazing option for you that I didn't have. All right, but a few other options. What are they? Well, you could learn skills from some of these courses like Skillshare if you're somebody that doesn't want to basically go to college or commit, or you're not sure what you want to commit to, because that's the other thing. A lot of times when you go to college, you might have an idea of, I want to do this when I get older. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a forest ranger. I want to be, a criminologist. Like some of you going in know or have a good idea of what you want to do. But a lot of people that go to college are kind of like, I don't know. I'm not really sure, because you've never really investigated or figured out what that thing is that you're interested in or you'd be amazing at. Around year 2, this is when you better start figuring it out, right? Knowing where you want to go, what you want to do. Now, for me, like I said, it was business. I wanted to open a gym, and so I knew that I needed to basically take courses that were going to allow me or afford me the knowledge in order to start a business. But like I said, I learned everything after I got out of college. For me, because I was paying, I also did it in 4 years. I've got friends that literally took 6 years to get a forestry degree because they were just effing around, right? For me, because I was paying, because I knew I didn't really love school. I have never loved school. I've never loved like book learning. right? I wanted to get out there. I wanted to basically start my life. I wanted to start like kicking ass and opening gyms and doing all that stuff, right? I didn't know how at the time, but I just knew that college was basically like, it felt like a holding pattern for me. I felt like I was ready to start my life and my career. And so I did it. I basically took classes on summer. I worked during my college time, and I got through 4 years. Actually, it was 4 years and a summer. And so it was one of those things where I just knew I needed to basically roll up my sleeves and do the work. I also didn't join a fraternity or any of that stuff because A, I couldn't afford it, and B, it just wasn't my thing. I had to work. I had to put myself through college partially, and it was something that I needed to do it. I needed to do it for me. And at the time, like I said, it was 1994, and there wasn't the internet. There weren't all of the options that you have. Now, if you're somebody that has no idea, what I would recommend is start trying a ton of shit. Start Googling, watching video tutorials on YouTube, like start exploring and trying a ton of shit. And when you find something that captures your attention or that you find more interesting, then what is the roadmap that you need to take in order to make that a career? Is it going to college? Is it going to a trade school? And that's the next thing I want to talk about. Trade schools don't get the sexy press that college or entrepreneurship does. Plumber, electrician, air conditioning repair person, you name it, automotive. Like there are so many trades that are out there that are amazing. Now the beautiful thing with these is a lot of times the trade school or the training, even a truck driver, like there's so many different things that you could do, but it doesn't require you to actually go to a 4-year and get a 4-year degree, right? Go into a college. And the cool thing about getting a trade certificate or training is that these professions are always going to be in demand. You also are probably going to make really good money because they oftentimes do. And the other cool thing is if it's something that you do and you get your foot in the door, or you decide to be an apprentice at one of these other shops, like you're an apprentice to an electrician or whatever it may be, right? You're going to get training, hands-on training, or here's another one, beautician, going and learning to be a hairstylist. Like that's another career that isn't necessarily you going to get a 4-year degree, but you can do it and you can make over $100,000 a year, much more than $100,000 a year. And there's always going to be a demand. There's always going to be a demand for people to work on your toilets that you clog, or your air conditioning units, or your cars, or your hair, because hair is one of those things that's kind of recession-proof. Hair is kind of recession-proof, right? Because people always need to get their hair cut. Most people don't want to cut their own hair. And the other thing is that if you're a woman with roots, right, and you've got grays coming in, you're going to be going in every like 3 weeks. Even when we had the economic like downturn during COVID, also back in 2006, 7, and 8, right? Stephen often talks about, no, business was great. What they did, they still came in, but they just didn't spend as much money. But they didn't want to do it themselves. And so, guys, there are options out there. If you're somebody that isn't ready or not ready to accept the responsibility of going to college, or you don't know what you want to do, there are so many different opportunities, more options out there than there have ever been. It's about you being curious. It's about you testing and trying different things and basically trying a ton of shit. You just got to try a bunch of stuff, right? Things that you're interested in or things that you're good at. And when you find something that's interesting or that you're good at, pull the thread a little bit further and see where it leads. And if you decide it's not right, then change. There's nothing wrong with changing. But what I don't want you to do is waste your time or your parents' money thinking that you need to go to college. If it's not ready yet, it may be someday. But if it's not now, then don't do it. Get a job, get to work. That in and of itself may be enough motivation for you to then be ready to basically accept the responsibility of going to school and taking on the courses, not to mention the freedom and the responsibility. I can't say or tell you, yes, you should go to college, or no, you shouldn't go to college. It's a personal thing. But if you're not ready to accept the responsibility of going to college, then you shouldn't go and you shouldn't waste your time or your parents' money. Get a job, get to work. Start being active and looking for something that may be more interesting. You may get a job and be like, yo, Alpha, this sucks. I want to go to school because I want to be a X or a Y. There's nothing saying that you need to do it now. There's nothing saying that you need to decide now. I would rather you take your time, be more methodical and disciplined in finding something that you're interested in and then going in that direction. Because if you find something that you love to do or that you're really good at, chances are you're going to do better at it. You're also going to stick with it longer. And so, in conclusion, my advice to you and my young friend that I met at the car wash is try a bunch of shit. Try it, see what you like, see what you love, see what you don't like. Right? See what you're good at. See what's interesting to you. You just got to pull a bunch of threads. And if you find something that's right, pull it a little bit further. If you decide it's not right, pull something else. Gentlemen, there's no time frame. You don't need to worry about, oh, I'm 20, I'm 25, right? The best time to start is when you know what you want to do, or you've got a good direction, or you've got a path in which you want to travel, right? But you also need to understand there is no straight line a lot of times to success. You're going to start down a path, and you may find that it's not right for you. Don't be afraid to acknowledge it and move and change directions, right? Do not do something that somebody else wants you to do for them. Do it for you. Figure out what you want and go after it.